Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to get started right into this, so let's go. Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of the Roadmap Roundtable. It's the official Ultima Online podcast where we're going to sit down with the team and we're going to let them shape the future of Britannia. I'm Fenneko, your host and the community manager for Ultima Online if you're new. Today's episode is something truly unique. So, for the first time, we've brought the entire development team together to give you an inside look at how Ultima Online continues to evolve, thrive, and surprise us decades after launch. Yes, we'll get into that one second. We'll be talking about what it's like to work on a living, breathing world. We'll share some stories and maybe even reveal a little bit about what's to come. So, whether you're a veteran tamer, a dungeon delver, or a proud homeowner in Malice, pull up a chair and join us for today's roundtable. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you haven't hit that subscribe or follow button, please do so. Also, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps us stay at the top of that algorithm so that when they search for us, our name's right at that top there. Be sure to check out all of our social media accounts for news and interactive posts. Check out the official UO forum to interact with your fellow players. You can ask questions, answer questions, submit bug reports, and so much more. If you have an active play account, simply sign in like you normally would, and you're in. Be sure to check out UO.com, your official #1 source of all things Ultima Online. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter so you can stay in the know about UO. Now then, let's get to introductions. First, please welcome Greg, the Ultima Online producer.
Hello, everyone.
Yay. Next, let us welcome Nick, the designer for UO.
Hello.
And next up, we have Steven, the UO engineer.
Hello, everyone.
Then we have Michael, who awesomely handles all of our QA.
Hello.
And then finally, last but not least, our amazing artist, Jim,
Hello, all.
Billy,
Good evening, everyone.
and Steph.
Hey, y'all.
Here we go. We've got everybody here, just like I said. All right, guys, we're going to get right into this. So if you have questions, please go ahead and submit them. We're going to be watching the chat, and then we're also going to be watching in game. So if you're not with us, you can join us. We are on TC1. We're in Minot. If you just go north to the Barnacle Tavern, that's where we are. So hopefully you'll be able to join us in game. All right. So let's get right into the nitty-gritty of this. All right. So I have a question for Greg, our producer. We're gonna start right off with that. What does a typical day look like for you working UO? Or is there no such thing?
I will definitely go with there's no such thing as a typical day. I think everybody on the team will agree that we all start the day off with a plan in mind and we say, all right, we're going to do this today. But as you kind of alluded to in the introductions, when you're working on something that's a living, breathing world and a live product that's been in production for as long as UO has, there's always going to be something that comes up that is like atypical. So, there's the general stuff that we plan and we build content for and all the various disciplines are creating assets for, but then like something random will happen and it'll be like, all right, well, I guess this is what today is going to look like. So there's no typical day for sure, but fortunately we don't have to deal with that too often and we can stay on track. But just as much as UO is a dynamic game to play, it is a dynamic game to develop as well.
Heck yeah. All right. Thank you so much for the follow. All right. Nick, when designing content for a game with so much history, how do you keep things fresh?
Great question. I usually look at it from a player's perspective, my own perspective. What would be fun for me to do? What would be fun for players to do? I've also played a lot of other video games in my lifetime, and I like to pull some inspiration from those games as well. For anyone that has played New Legacy lately, with the opening of Blackthorn's Dungeons, you can see a lot of new, fresh content and ideas that we put in there. If you haven't played New Legacy, I highly suggest giving it a try because it's a great time there. But yeah, I mean, I just tried to look at what would be fun and engaging for players and myself if I was a player, and base it off of that.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. Next up, how about Steven? What's it like working with a code base that dates back to the late 90s?
Um, it can be challenging at times, especially some of the very older systems. Like- but we have recently been upgrading a bunch of systems and like versions of C++. So it's allowing us to bring the code base into a more modern era, which is great. But it can definitely be frustrating at times. But it's great.
Awesome. Awesome. And we did get our first question. And I guess this kind of applies to the three of you already now. Which of the new systems on New Legacy, for example, the Quest Engine, Blackthorn's Portrait Sash system, etc., do you think has been the biggest success?
That's a really good question, and I think one for our intrepid designer, Mr. Nick, because he's the nuts and bolts of all that. What do you think, Nick?
Honestly, all those systems mentioned have been very successful in their own regard. The quest system has been successful in guiding players on their journey in New Legacy to leveling their character and unlocking the story and the narratives that go along. The Blackthorn system that we put in was the first of its kind with the way that dungeon worked, and that's been a tremendous success. Very popular content that worked really well. The portrait sash system, also known as like the legacy system. Greg, you did the nuts and bolts of the portrait system and the sash for that, and I think that's turned out really well. Players really like seeing their achievements and their sashes and looking at other players' portraits and sashes. So I can't say that any one of those has been more successful than the other, but I do feel like all of them are successful in their own regard.
I think you bring up a really good point too with the legacy portraits. That was a fun thing to build because one of our former artists did all the assets for it, and the idea was always like, how can we layer all the different facial features together to create all these different looks? Because that's something I always wish we'd had, like a little more customization on the play, like how you can make your player look as opposed to everybody essentially looking the same in the paper doll. So when she first implemented it, I had to like assign all of the different facial features to their appropriate spots. And there was a lot of really interesting bugs that came out of that when it was in development because noses were ending up where like eyeballs were supposed to go, and like chins were up where noses were supposed to be. So we had some fun with that. But I really liked seeing how players were able to customize their player characters with that system, and um, I think we're excited to see that get ported over to production at the conclusion of the first season.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's move on over to Michael. Are there any memorable bugs or testing moments that still make you laugh or cry?
I remember a bug report that to this day makes me chuckle whenever I remember it. It was simply one word, ogres. And it was ogres was misspelled, and it was just
Still my favorite one.
I don't know what to make of that. So that has always brings me a chuckle. Um, as far as any other memorable testing, we had an issue in when we were doing essay. There was a bug that arose. I'll use that term specifically.
I
Pun
know where you're
intended.
going with this.
Pun intended. When an elf would die, it would have an odd corpse that had a almost like a pole basically coming out of the body. It was very interesting looking. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I've had many of interesting events happen during the testing of Ultima Online. So those are a couple of ones that come to mind.
Very cool. Oh, Wyvern has a question. What's your question? We have several questions coming in. Another question while we wait for Wyvern. Let's see. Let's round this over. There's some questions about any more information that we can give with 120. Or is that still secretive?
Not too secret from Burger Mab.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nick, you're building the siege event. I don't know how much you want to tease out at the moment, but I'll let you go as far as you want with that one to how much detail you want to talk about the siege event without spoiling the backstory.
Yeah. So in the siege event, it's not like previous town invasions that we've done. It's something more of a hybrid. We're pulling elements from stuff we've done in New Legacy, stuff we've done on production before, and some new stuff. It's a multi-phased event where you have different parts. The siege of it is one part of it. There's some fighting, some boss fighting, some defense mechanisms. You kind of get a little bit of everything without spoiling too much. It's not like anything we've done before. There will be familiar elements in there. I mean, don't get me wrong. You will be fighting mobs. You will be, getting loot and stuff like that. And there will be a vendor, but it's something a little bit new that we're trying. So hopefully everyone will like it.
Very cool. Very excited for this one. Very excited. I had a lot of fun with the last one, and I know a lot of players really had a lot of fun with the past events that have been going on. So, really looking forward to it. All right.
As far as the Clydesdale is concerned, I think we better look a horse in the eye and let our resident creature creator extraordinaire, Mr. Jim, talk about the horse of a different color because he's been working on that for a couple of months now and it's absolutely epic.
Yeah, the Clydesdale, we definitely wanted to go for a larger scale, actually make it sizable, just like it would be comparable to the horses in the game now. So it will be a beefy monster. I think someone asked if it's going to be hewable. It definitely has hewable locations for the filigree. And we hope to give it like some real feel so that it can stand up next to the other horses. Let's see, were there other questions about the Clydesdale?
Will it be trainable? Yeah.
No, that's above my pay grade.
That's a Nick question. Nick is our resident animal expert. He has the highest ratings from the Gamekeepers Company of Britannia.
It's a badge of honor I wear. Um, Yes, the Clydesdale will be a trainable pet. It will go to 5 slots. Its starting stats, still in the works, still in design, but it will be a trainable pet with advanced animal training. So you have that to look forward to.
Exciting. Very exciting. All right. Since we're already kind of segueing into our artists, let's ask, and goes to each of you. Okay. What is your favorite thing you've gotten to create recently?
Uh, Probably for me, since I enjoy making creatures, even though I usually have to pull them back so they're not like X-rated gore, um, would be some of the new monsters, in particular the ones that when I show them to the team, everybody just kind of goes, "Oh God, no!"
Oh, the absolute nightmare fuel that you've been churning out that has been giving me unpleasant nightmares for the past couple weeks. I put those things in art review, and it's genuinely uncomfortable, and that's how I know you did an incredible job.
Look, you said you wanted things from another world that were nightmarish. I just did what I could.
Yeah, like the nightmare meatball.
Oh,
The
Oh,
nightmare.
I love that thing.
cool.
It's the best.
Don't forget their little slug babies.
Oh gosh, yes.
So that would be me. Billy?
Okay, I can go next. Are we allowed to talk about things that are in 120? Or just
Sure, why not?
okay, just want to make sure I don't go like too far ahead or something. Well, to be honest, it's hard to pick like one because I like to do like the really pretty things, but I also like to do like the really gross things. So, uh, if like at top of my head at the moment, I think it's between like I really liked working on these anniversary items that we have that are gonna come down the pipe. You know, they're gonna be like all orchid themed. I got to work with little flowers and make them all pretty. But then also I got to make this like really cool, goopy, gross, bubbly, blue, noxious void thing, and that was fun.
It looked
So I like to
amazing.
do those.
You, by the way.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
it turned out amazing.
Yeah, it looked amazing.
Thank you. I hope you guys like it.
That would be a
And the
good
bo-
definition of the new monsters. Goopy.
Yeah, goopy. Very goopy.
yeah, that void goop stuff is actually being used in New Legacy right now and published too. So if you haven't
Yay!
seen
Okay,
it,
good.
go
So we
check
got to
it
see
out.
it. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
All right, and Steph, what about you?
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything that I'm working on. I'll go with honestly, like the team gave me the opportunity to work on all of the cool stuff for the live streams like Fenneko and Ryoko, and like doing all of those has been like a lot of fun for me. So it's a little bit out of pocket, I think, compared to UO in general, and it's been really cool to work on. So yeah.
Yeah, those really turned out incredible. Um, I want everyone to who's listening to really understand how um, much the team cares about our Japanese audience and how important it is that we connect with that audience. I know when those assets came out, people were various shades of emotion. Um, and I can understand it. I certainly can. But we specifically made those assets for our Japanese audience so that we could engage with them because, like I said, they're such an important part of our community. So, um, seeing them getting put to use through the streams and connecting with them on a way that they have traditionally interfaced with UO as the art styles have kind of meshed over the years was really a great experience for us from the team and also for the Japanese players as well. I am an absolute noob when it comes to Japanese, but our very talented Japanese speaker, Serena, can vouch when she says the feedback we've gotten so far from them on on Fenneko and Ryoko is I don't know. How would you say it in Japanese? How would you say it's been really great?
Oh, 素晴らしいです。Yeah, definitely. 愛してます。皆さん、愛してます。We love you all. Yeah, it's been a trip. I love doing it. I can honestly say I absolutely love streaming for the Japanese audience, and the Japanese audience has been just so nice and everything. So I can't say that enough. You guys have been amazing. 皆さん素晴らしいです。So yeah, thank you. ありがとうございます。So yeah, thank you. Do itashimashite, Ronan. Okay, we've got some other player questions that are coming in. Not sure we can kind of touch on any of these, but there have been questions about like are there anything else that is going to be kind of integrated into production that has been on New Legacy? I know we've kind of seen things kind of trickle down in the last event, and a lot of people have said that they really loved that. Is there any plans to kind of integrate that kind of stuff in, like more trickling down?
Yeah, I think we touched on this in a couple of the different streams that we've done, but pretty much, and I'll let Nick and Steven go into more detail on this, but basically we built everything with New Legacy with portability in mind where it made sense. Some things we can't port over to production easily and seamlessly, but other things we definitely can. Take for example the nuts and bolts of the pumpkin regatta. That was one of the systems that I worked on, and it was built with portability in mind. So there are definitely going to be some things that cross over. Nick already talked about some of those with regard to the various encounter types and things like that. But we have that option, and where it makes sense, we'll utilize it.
Okay. Lots of love coming in for Steven, by the way. You have a fan
We love
base.
Steven.
Appreciate it.
Steven absolutely deserves a fan base.
Definitely. Let's see here. What else do we have? Going through we've gotten some people posting kind of everywhere right now. So we're just kind of trying to get through. So if you have submitted your question, I am seeing them. I swear to you, there's just a lot of questions that are coming in. So I'm trying to get through to all of those questions as we come down the line. So thank you very much for the follow again. Yeah, I just ask that your patience, we will get to your question as best we can. If it's a repeat, obviously we're not going to repeat the same questions over and over. So, let's see. One of the questions, let's see here. There have been some suggestions, I guess, that have been asked, as far as uh, filtering systems for like the jewelry box and stuff like that. Um, Let's see. Just kind of going through all the questions and making sure these are questions we haven't already answered. So let's see.
At some point, didn't you look at the filtering options on the jewelry box, Stephen? It was we had to kind of re-engineer it, didn't we? Wasn't that where it ended up?
Yeah, based on the first implementation of it, we would have to kind of change it. I think Nick made something else that was similar that had some filtering. But I think to the level that the players actually want it to be filtered, I think there would need to be a substantial reworking of it. So
Okay.
Yeah, and that's generally just so our listeners can kind of get a look, it's not a case of we're ignoring these requests. I don't want people to think that like we, you know, hear these and it's like, oh, they're just ignoring us all the time. We have limited resources, and we have a plan in mind that is going to work best for the health of the game in the long run. And for something like that, it would require a fair amount of engineering resources that currently are devoted to another project that we've talked about. Stephen can go into more detail on that, but those engineering resources are very precious, and we have to be really careful about where we assign them so that we can get the best return for that time. So that being said, Stephen, what have you been working on for the past couple of weeks and months?
Um, so basically, I think we laid out a plan since we launched New Legacy, and the players, we got a lot of feedback from them, and we have gone down the road of upgrading the classic client here to have a smoother gameplay in terms of trying to achieve that 60 frames per second. So that's the first thing that's on our list here, along with some additional server upgrades that are continuing to go on in the background. Yeah, I'm steadily making progress here, and I think the last update we gave is that we're trying to allow them preview sometime this summer. So
Very cool. Very exciting, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's also the gateway to all the other features that folks have been asking us about too. Um, without getting too far down the rabbit hole, this was the first step in any kind of meaningful change for the classic client, which we know players are asking for, and we want to deliver on that. So this is going to be a huge win for us, and we're excited to see it to come to life. And fortunately, we have the world's greatest engineer in Steven. He is a Renaissance man of the digital world, can do anything and everything, and we love him for it.
Okay. Um, is there any plans to add like being having the ability to use puff powders on things like rings, necklaces, clothing, anything like that in the future?
Everybody want that powder. They want to keep that stuff forever.
Mm-hmm. It's nice when you get something nice, you kind of want to keep it, you know?
I know. Sounds like a good designer question. What do you think there? That one right over to you, bud.
I got you. um, I would say that falls into the greater category discussion of updating crafting. Honestly, we don't want everything to necessarily live forever. You know, powdering a clean item basically leaves you a permanent item. Um, so we'd have to weigh the pros and cons about being able to powder jewelry and cloth items that currently can't take powder, but it would be a bigger discussion in the scope of like updating parts of crafting.
Okay. All right.
I'll also going back to the client discussion real quick because I've seen it pop in the chat a couple times and it's been on the forums and people continue to ask about it and what our stance is going to be on botting, scripting, banning people for third-party clients and things like that. As I've said on other streams and as I've in other interviews, we're not going to talk publicly about any actions that we may or may not be taking, planning on taking, or otherwise strategizing. Other than to say that we hear you, we understand the frustrations, But just like the Secret Service, we don't comment on procedure because we don't want that information public. But just know that you are being heard, and I'll leave it at that.
Well said. Well said. Oh, somebody asking if you were quoting the West Wing.
Yes, I was quoting the West Wing, and if anybody can tell me the character that says that,
Ron
I will be.
Butterfeld?
Yeah, that's right.
Harbottle already jumped in on that one. They had you.
Yep, somebody out there is a fellow wingnut.
There you go. Ronan asked, "You're not the CIA?"
No. No.
All right. Let's see. We've got some questions again on if there will be any crafting changes or anything. Is there anything in the works about that, or just kind of?
That's a big question. You know,
Mhm.
I think that in the past when we've looked at this, it's like, well, what exactly do you mean by crafting changes?
Mhm.
Because you have to kind of drill down on what that's going to look like. As everybody's aware over the years, I mean, nearly 30 years at this point, crafting has gone through many iterations with lots of different systems and lots of different opportunities to play that crafting loop. Um, and at this point, I think I would best describe it as like a large ball of intertwined string. And once we start pulling on one thread, and it's kind of like, all right, well, now we're in the ball and we've got to keep going. So if there's specifics that, we'd love to have that discussion on the forums, and see like really for those people who are into crafting, because then it folds into the whole broader gear loop and all these other interconnected design decisions that have to be made. I always look at it from the perspective of like, how much are people willing to tolerate us hitting the reset button? And to contextualize that, it kind of goes back to Age of Shadows for anybody that was playing during that time. Um, I had come back to playing UO for Age of Shadows, which I think would have been circa 2003, and I took a break from like, oh, in the 2002 to 2003 period. And I came back for Age of Shadows, and when I came back, the house that I had, which was filled with all this elite gear, had essentially been made worthless. And it is one of the most disappointing moments of my adolescence. So I certainly don't want to go down that road, but at the time, that was a necessary change to move the crafting and gear loop forward. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know that we're in that position today to do that much of a drastic change, but like I said, have a discussion amongst the community, and we can go from there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It kind of segues into kind of another question I have. When you're charting the course for something like Ultima Online, um, how do you balance the player expectations with internal goals?
That is a really good question. I think that one of the biggest kind of nomers out there is that somehow we don't play the game, or that we don't listen, or that we don't care, or anything like that. And I can say that everybody on the team is just about as invested and passionate about this project as you can get. Even for our newer team members, like they have shown such a degree of enthusiasm and absolute love for this product that you know is really endearing. So, we always want to deliver to our players the absolute best experience that we can. We want to deliver an experience that entices new people to come and try the game. We want to deliver an experience that entices people who have since stopped playing the game to come back. Those are always going to be our broadest goals. And we also want to make sure that we're delivering on the stuff that our current players like. The stuff that we implement and each publish is done because that's what we see is the most popular. I get that sometimes it may not be the thing everybody likes, but we kind of have to take a 30,000-foot view and see where the best opportunities for us to deliver on as many goals as possible. So I kind of equate it to a constant act of spinning plates, and we kind of spin the plates as best we can. And fortunately for us, it's worked out, because despite reports to the contrary, we are still very much alive and well and strong, and the community is incredible and just as excited as ever for all things that come to Britannia.
Hmm? Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that, or should we just keep moving?
I think Greg summed it up nicely.
Okay.
Yeah, ask them some questions. I need water.
Okay. Everybody was being so quiet, so all right. Nick, since you spoke up, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You design and implement content. How does owning the full process shape how you work?
I would say it lets me be more creative with what I'm doing. If I'm responsible for the bulk of the content from start to finish, I can shape it as it goes. I can tweak it as I'm doing it. Versus if multiple people are handling multiple parts, you're gonna have to wait for that part to be done and slot it into what you're doing and see how it works together. But if you're the one responsible for everything, you shape it as it goes, balance it as it goes, tweak it as it goes. And I think it, at least from my perspective, it works pretty well. I love making the content like that and just going with it. Usually start out bare bones system, bare bones event, and then fill it in as it goes. Like what needs to be tweaked here, what needs to be tweaked there, what will make this more engaging. This part's a little dull, but yeah, being able to own it from start to finish, it's great for the creative process, I think. And not to say that the rest of the team doesn't help, because we definitely have design review and feedback and play tests and stuff like that to get everyone's input on the team. But yeah, being able to create it from start to finish, lots of creative freedom.
Okay. Somebody had a follow-up question for you. They wanted to know your favorite game outside of UO.
And that's a tough one because it probably rotates month to month, year to year. Um, I would say right now the game I've been playing most outside of UO is World of Warships, just because it's an easy hop into, blow up some stuff game that's quick, fun, and exciting. But I've dabbled everything from prior MMOs, you name it. I probably played it at some point in the past, to MOBAs, to RTS, to um, text-based games, all kinds of stuff like that. So
Very cool. Very cool. Lots of strategy games.
yeah, for sure, strategy RPG games are would be some of my favorite, as well as sci-fi fantasy. I mean, that whole type of genre is great.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Steven, you're being too quiet here. Um, are there areas of the engine that only a few people really understand today?
By people, you mean uh, basically, I mean the designers kind of stick to the scripting for the most part. They modify some client code um, when they're updating like buff icons and things like that. But for the most part, we, they kind of stick to their area, and I handle all the engineering side. So yeah, there's a lot of areas in which I am the sole owner of. So
Yes.
but I am willing to I am willing to share if they get interested in it. So, but for the most part, I handle everything on the engineering side.
Okay.
And that's why we love Steven so much. um, Fortunately for Steven too, I mean, we do have an incredible company behind us at Broadsword. There's an entire platform team that can help us with some of the more broad-reaching kind of engineering tasks, but when it comes to all things UO, Steven is the guy.
Definitely, Steven's the man.
He also code reviews all of our submissions and makes sure we don't do things like spawn too many birds in Eodon.
That sounds like a story.
Plus
Yeah,
his
great.
ability to fix an entire situation by finding one period out of place 900 pages in 5 minutes is pretty impressive.
Greg, tell them about the, what was it, the water elementals? Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
during Time of Legends development, there was a lot of very late nights on Time of Legends, and we had a very small window to complete the entirety of the build-up encounters for the up to the roof, like in the tower there. So I think there were 4 altogether. Everything's a blur at this point, but the one that I spent the most time on was the fountain room. And the idea was based on one of those old school games where you were like a plumber and you had to like connect the flowing water. And that's kind of where it started from. And then I added some UO flair where if things went sideways, then it would spawn a bunch of water elementals. And the idea is if you didn't path the water correctly, then enough water elementals would spawn and you would die. And when you died, you got kicked out of the encounter and it would reset. Well, problem is that there might have been just one too many water elementals, and I think what ended up happening was crashing the server or jamming up the spawn manager so that nothing else was spawning in the entire world, and things went really sideways. And when we finally pulled it up and we looked at it, Steven was like, "What is going on here?"
Oh no.
Yeah,
Stephen
but
might.
we quickly resolve it though. So
Yeah, we did fix it.
Yeah,
yeah, we quickly resolved it.
Stephen might hate me for this, but that's actually one of my favorite things to do in Shadowguard is the fountain room. I'm sorry, Stephen. It's my favorite. I love doing that one. So now I know who to thank for putting that room in there. All right. So we've got a couple more questions that have come in. Are there any plans to delve back into world building in the future, especially for New Legacy?
It depends what we're world building. World building in UO is very labor intensive because every single piece of terrain and every single piece of static art, every tree, every foliage cover, every plant, every circle of mushrooms, every sprinkling of daisies, etc., has to be made by hand. So it definitely, like I said, is labor intensive. I think I talked about it on one of the interviews we did with the Valley of Eodon. Took, gosh, probably 3 months to build. And it was probably why my carpal tunnel is as bad as it is today, but it's a lot of fun to do it. So where we can slot it in and it makes sense, we're happy to do some more world building. But for us too, being able to reuse various things also is important for us. So that's why you've seen more kind of dynamic things like built out of not necessarily world built assets, but more dynamic assets. Although that creates its own set of circumstances that we have to be aware of because that can also create performance hiccups. And despite my requests to the contrary, where the answer to all performance issues isn't just add more blades.
Is there plans on adding any like fell events in the future? I know we have a lot of fell people who love fell.
Any specific type of fell event or just stuff
No,
in Feluca in general?
they just said just fell events. Any events in fell?
Gotcha. It's definitely on, I would say, the broader roadmap. We've kind of looked at what we can do to incentivize and revitalize PvP. Um, but it's something that we're not just gonna throw a bunch of just nonsense at and see what happens. Like it'll kind of be in the context of how we did Vice and Virtue, where we started with some general ideas and then kind of went back and forth with the community, um, see what people are looking for and kind of go from there. There's probably some opportunities for us to do some PvP stuff with like arenas and things like that that we've done in the past if there's interest for it, because at the end of the day that's really what drives it. It's like, what are people interested in?
Hmm.
Just from my experience over the years, it seems like nothing really beats old school U-Gate PvP. Despite all the systems we've done, all the different, even back to the faction days and stuff like that, people still just love hardcore U-Gate PvP. So, let's lean into that and see where we can go with it.
Yeah, yeah. I've had people try to teach me how to PvP, and I fail miserably. So I'm still learning. All right. Let's have Michael answer a question. So QA on UO sounds like both a science and an adventure. How do you approach testing something this sprawling?
Um, it is an adventure, definitely. It's it all depends on what is being tested, whether it's something as quote unquote simple as art, which is just a matter of, does it look the way it should? Does it not show up as a pink blot? Uh, but then you also have the question on, is it uh, is it actually what is intended? So if someone were to say, I'm going to um, make a cup, well, there's all sorts of different types of cups. There's mugs, uh, there's all sorts of different cups. So it's a matter of figuring out, is it not only pretty and what we want it to be, but is it what's expected? Um, Let me see the fact that so many people have had their hands on the code over the many years, and so many things are interlaced. Uh, it does it. I don't want to say it's problematic, but sometimes you'll run into a case of somebody will submit, uh, let's say, an encounter or whatever, and that encounter will break something that is not related to that encounter whatsoever. So somebody will uh, create a battle between you and one mob, and during that battle, uh, all say tailoring stops to work on the server because someone 15 years ago uh, put in some code that linked the AI that they're using to something else, and it is an adventure, definitely.
Okay. I think we all see it as like an adventure, but you do a lot of work for
Yes,
UO. You really do, and we definitely appreciate all the work that you do for UO and doing QA. And I know people have been asking about, QA stuff, and let me tell you, Michael works round the clock on QA practically. So let me tell you, amazing. Thank you so much for everything you do.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Hmm. All right, since our Artists have been so quiet. I'm going to ask some questions to our artists because we need to show them lots of love too because they're amazing. Jim, your favorite asset or creature you've made recently?
Oh. Can we talk about the? Hey, Greg, can we talk about the new ones?
Sure.
Corrupted Tree.
Yeah, the corrupted tree is again nightmare fuel.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's
I
creepy.
did
The
my best.
spider
to-
legs on it really sell it.
No.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
then
Honestly, yeah.
that is the adventure. Dealing with all of Jim's spider-related crap.
Well,
Loves it.
Look, when something skitters, it's scary.
That's true. That's true.
No,
um
that thing is terrible.
Poison
But
ivy.
yeah, that's my favorite one lately.
Yeah. That definitely is. I do like it. It's creepy, but it's awesome. Poison ivy wants more dinos. Look, I hear you, Poison ivy. I do. I likes the dinosaurs too. All right, Billy. Do you bring any personal style into your UO work, or do you adapt to the classic aesthetic?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that fortunately, the last I mean, maybe this isn't so much personal style, but the last game I did work on was Simpson Tapped Out, which was like also a top view down game. And I think my experience in working in that isometric view helped a lot in translating to that. I forgot the specific geometric term, but technically UO is not isometric. It's different. But just like that little like crisscrossy style. It was very, very helpful. But I will say one of the funner parts of my job is definitely trying to like what's the word? Like backwards engineer how how the UO style works exactly when I look at them, because usually what happens is you know, someone like will be like, "Hey, Billy, we need to make something for the game." Like for example, the orchids I talked about earlier, and I'll be like, "Okay, cool." And then the first thing I do is like I'll look at other assets in the game already that are kind of in the same category, so for the orchids, I looked at like other little flowers and things like that. And then like uh, UO is interesting because it is such a game with like such a long history. There are definitely elements of the art style that reflect that like original old school style, but now we have the tools to have like higher fidelity. And I think modern audiences, even if they do like enjoy retro looking games, it's not really like you actually necessarily enjoy how those games literally looked like in the past. It's like we have to kind of adapt that past style in a way that still looks good for the modern audience without them really noticing that it's actually different. I don't know. Did I make any sense?
It made sense. It made sense.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And getting a lot of love for your artwork so far. So players really do love
Yay.
you guys. We love the artists. We do. You guys are amazing. You do such beautiful
Oh,
work.
and
Thanks,
someone
guys.
asked earlier about the flower onk. That would be Billy.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did do that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sometimes Bonnie will be like, "DEMs have requests," and I'll be like, "Cool. What are they?" And one of them was Far Off one time.
Yeah, you guys do such beautiful work. Except Jim. Jim, you make horrifying things.
He's team
I take
horrifying.
that as a compliment.
Heck yeah, it is.
They're beautiful in their own way, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Steph, what inspires your seasonal and event art pieces?
Oh no. Oh gosh. I mean, I would live in like seasonal stuff year round if I could. So, um, yeah, it's always a fun opportunity to be able to kind of do that. Like it's interesting because whenever there's holiday stuff, it's always like really far in advance. So it's like, oh, it's Christmas, but we're working on Halloween, or it's Halloween, we're working on Christmas, or it's the middle of summer, we're working on Christmas. So yeah, it's really like being able to just kind of dive into that seasonal stuff year round. And I tend to get a lot of like inspo from like other games that I play too. Like I play a lot of Final Fantasy Online, which has a lot of like decoration aspects. So just kind of like pulling in stuff from that, and yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And
I love that you brought up the point that we work on the holidays like so off schedule. So it's like I, yeah, it's the middle of like July, and it's like, all right, snow and candy canes, and you're like, my brain can't handle this. Although I did recently learn that at least in Australia, in the southern hemisphere, they celebrate Christmas twice because the seasons are reversed. So like
What?
everybody celebrates Christmas around like Christmas time, or that's the big one that they do. But all of the like December holidays, depending on your flavor of December holiday, they do them then as well. But then they also do it in July because that's winter time in Australia. So everybody's like in full holiday mode in July because it's cold and it sometimes, I guess, snows. And I was like, that would totally screw with my biological clock.
definitely. Definitely. Getting a lot of love for the meatball specifically right now. Um,
Or
um
meatball.
yes. um the one question we've been getting a couple times now,
Mouth or magic for the meatball?
oh, mouth or magic for the meatball?
Basically, the one that uses the tongue, or the one that doesn't use the tongue.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
actually two different ones, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see when that comes in. I'll shout that one out. Questions on if there's going to be a list sometime in the near future about what is going to be transferable from New Legacy.
Yes, we talked about this today, as a matter of fact, because we thought that the question would come up. Basically, if you go back to the original FAQ for New Legacy, we outline a series of items in terms of their broader category that you can transfer over. And I'll go ahead and read that now so we can refresh.
No, we're still here,
And
Morgana. We're still here.
characters will transfer with any skills and sets they have acquired on New Legacy. Characters will be able to transfer select items that fall into the following categories: legacy items, pets, decorations, and non-consumable Ultima store items. So if it falls into that category, it will be eligible for transfer pending our final review. And then as far as the transfer process is concerned, veteran accounts basically will have the opportunity to transfer to the non-siege rule set shard of your choice, pending the availability of character slots there. For Endless Journey accounts, you'll be able to have the opportunity to get a transfer token style item via the UO store if you'd like to pay for that and transfer on over. And then the shard will go through its reset period, and yeah, on will come season 2.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Very, very cool. Um Oh, that's a good question, Harbottle. Is anything with the house name considered a legacy item?
Yes, anything that is associated with your house name or your legacy sash and things like that will be something that, again, is eligible pending final review. So the asterisk on that statement is like, we have to be very particular about different styles of art and, well, different art assets and the color and things like that to make sure that we're not trampling on some long time like server birth rare type situation. So again, there will be a final review, But yeah, anything with your house name would be a potential legacy item.
Okay. Okay. Speaking about, going from, ideas and concepts and, what goes, past that point. How do you decide when an idea is ready to move from like concept to implementation?
It's a good question. I will take the first part of this and then I'll let Nick answer the second part of it. But when I was doing design work on UO, basically it all starts with an idea. A lot of it is inspired by what the player base is looking for and kind of goes back to what I said at the top of the discussion related to kind of like our broader goals and things like that. And you just start kind of either writing notes down. I mean, everybody's got their own process. That process for me was I have a book somewhere around here with any kind of crazy idea that I have, and I write it down in my little book. And when the time comes for that particular idea to begin implementation within that broader context, you start trying to build it. Oftentimes, there's a conversation that I would have with Steven beforehand, kind of like talking through the technical requirements, like early on, having a discussion with Michael from the QA side of things, like how can we avoid some of the pitfalls of this getting broken or exploited and things like that. And then we kind of bring it to the broader team, and then we spend painstaking hours and lots of gray hair implementing it, testing it, play testing it, re-implementing it, QAing it, fixing the bugs, back to and it just goes on. And then eventually you've got this prideful, shiny little thing that you're ready to release upon the world. You're super happy, and then it goes to TC1, and like a kindergartner coming back from the first day of school after the bully took his lunch money, you've got to kind of reassure them and tell them it's going to be okay and fix whatever issues and feedback you get from TC1 and go from there.
Okay.
What do you think, Nick? Is your process different?
Very similar, actually. Instead of a handwritten notebook, I actually have a text file where any kind of random crazy idea or not so crazy ideas I get, I'll jot it down in the text file, and then I kind of from there I will go back to it from time to time, make notes on it, tweak the idea. They don't always make it to being implemented, but a lot of ideas have come from there. Um, and it could just be working on one thing and then randomly get this crazy idea. Oh, this would be kind of interesting if we could do this in UO, and you write it down and come back to it later. But one thing, and I can give an example, is the Forsaken Bloodline dungeon on New Legacy, which is Blackthorn's dungeon. I know we've been talking about how do we reopen Blackthorn's dungeon for a while, since it was closed down for an event and most of the mobs are gone from it. And I was kind of born from, okay, let's reopen the dungeon. What do we do? Let's fill it with mobs. That's kind of boring. What else can we do? Let's do mini bosses. Okay, there's some mini bosses in there. Now let's do wings, and each wing can control something else. Now let's do some really big bad bosses in there. And it's kind of becomes this hybrid mix, essentially like a raid style dungeon from modern MMOs, where you've got trash mobs, you've got mini bosses, you've got the wings you have to clear to unlock the bigger bosses. You kill all the bigger bosses, the dungeon resets. So, that idea was born from just how do we reopen Blackthorn's dungeon, and then we've got this big old raid dungeon on New Legacy now. Um, but yeah, things just kind of evolve as you work on them and as you go back to your ideas and see what kind of sticks to say.
Okay. Uh, Harbottle, thank you so much. I can't repeat that whole sentence, but I will kind of I will make it how they think New Legacy Blackthorn's dungeon is really darn cool. I can't say that word, but we'll just say really darn cool.
Well, I appreciate the kind words and the '90s slang there, Harbottle.
Yeah. Okay. Um let's see here. I got a question for Steven. What's a recent engineering challenge that you found satisfying to solve?
Hmm. Besides the ongoing work with the upgrading of the renderer, some of the back end work that was required for migrating to some of these new servers has been challenging, but very satisfying to solve those situations. Now that we're able to run on faster hardware, we run into less issues related to lag for the most part, and it's still we still get that same stability. So
Okay. All right. Michael, what's a bug that made you laugh or one that taught you something?
Hmm. I mean, obviously the elven body made me laugh. One that taught me something. I'm thinking. Well, I have I think somewhere still my near my desk I have a um little whiteboard that had the what I refer to as the QA commandments, and it was basically a list of stuff to always check for. Uh, One of them was because apparently hue colors are very how can I put this? Some hue colors are we don't want to put them out into the world because they are like there's is it Europa Gold? That was one of the hue colors. Uh, um, and I would keep a list of items that would come up uh, like how does this affect siege? Basically, that was one of my commandments was when we're submitting something, when this actually gets to siege, how is that going to be different due to the different rules of the server? Um, I don't know where that whiteboard is. Um, but any specific bugs, um, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Um, all right. How about we have some questions for the art team? So let's talk visuals. How do you keep UO looking and feeling authentic while introducing fresh content?
Honestly, a lot of the times we hit the ground running and we do everything we can to make it look as amazing as possible. And then we put it in the game and then we adjust it until it fits. um, I'm the biggest one who needs to make changes because I have a tendency to go too realistic, and I have to tone it back quite often. Um, I would say Billy and Steph have been knocking it out of the park with matching things up first time around, though. Really proud of both of them.
Oh, thanks, Jen.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah, it
Aw.
feels sweet.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that you tend to go too realistic. I feel like I'm in the opposite direction. I tend to go too cartoony. I'm like, oh shoot, these shadows aren't strong enough. I have to go more. It's not gritty enough. It's not crispy enough.
Well, that's just it. Honestly, a more cartoony style is actually better, and then you just fix it up just a touch from there. Uh, it's the whole, all right, a nice sweep for the leaf, whereas I'm sitting there trying to draw the veins in.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think or facing that challenge, I think, is kind of like what's the word, like one of the things I find very enjoyable, I guess, about doing my day to day. Like, how do I make this thing look like it's an UO, but also still, like, because it's like a new thing, you want it to be like fresh and cool looking at the same time. And I will say, a note I get a lot from Jim is like, it's too sharp. You have to blur it. Because I think some of the older assets, since monitors were like not as sharp back then, they're all nice and soft, and it's like you have to force yourself to remember, like, oh yeah, it has to look like a little bit soft and not so like not too hard, because if it looks too hard, it looks too like, I don't know, just like not like basically. It's got to have like that soft, like semi-realistic look of like I kind of actually think a little bit of like impressionism is like an idea I think about a lot when I'm working on some of the smaller assets, especially because it's like it has to be sharp enough so that your brain can kind of fill in the rest of the details if it's like a very small piece of tile art, but at the same time not too sharp, because it's like, oh no, now it looks like a video game pixel. That's not what we want. It needs to look like a little natural, like just like a little bit. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to explain it really.
No, I think you're
I
doing
think
good.
you hit the nail on the head with the
Oh,
whole
thank you.
softness side of it, because a lot of the original art assets were ported over from Pagan and then polished. So, you're talking
Mm.
about something that at this point is probably close to pushing 40 years old. And what are we up to? 8K monitors now? 16K a
Yeah.
thing yet?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I
And
think it's real neat.
hmm,
Oh, I said I think it's really neat.
yeah,
Just like trying to capture that spirit, basically. That I think does make UO as a game in general pretty unique from a lot of its contemporaries. Is that the word? Other games are out there right now,
hmm, yeah. Speaking of the art, had a player ask who did the paladin set for the Arcane Outfitter.
That would be me, and Greg made the amazing layout for it.
Okay. They said they are really enjoying it, and they wanted to know if there's any plans on releasing any more sets like that for the Arcane Outfitter.
Oh, and we got a lot of it from the outsource that we were using for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. I touched them up and corrected some things. So
It's definitely a possibility. They were kind of a new offering. One of the hangups with them was that they're only paper doll only, and some folks kind of were turned off by that, and we completely get that. Like Jim said, they were kind of bonus assets that we got from an outsourced art service that we were using for a while, and we kind of were like, what is the best way we can kind of use these different paper doll cosmetics, um, and if we move forward with them, maybe we can look into doing the associated avatar assets as well. But as Jim will uh, likely go into more detail here, that is a much bigger art lift than just doing the paper doll art. So more customization of the avatar and more customization of the paper doll are definitely things we love doing. Being able to have different weapon types and different armor types and different looks of how existing stuff does, that's a really great way for us to keep things fresh. I've seen a number of comments in the various chat streams about updating some of the existing bosses with new loot. For example, someone asked about updating the peerless bosses with new loot. And yeah, we'd love to do that. It just always becomes a question of, all right, what loot are we going to actually put on them? We try to keep the power creep under control as much as we can, but at the end of the day, we are dealing with a game world that's pushing 30 years old. So we have to explore other ways to make the loot that you get from those encounters worth getting. And one of the avenues which we have to do that is through aesthetic changes. And we've explored that in the past with different systems like we did the different swords with the skull motifs to them, which was really cool. And with this paladin set, we did some of the rewards from the last live event in that style. So we can do stuff like that, and continuing to kind of work into those types of reward design decisions is a lot easier for us to slot into the broader balance rather than some uber piece of something that is the final piece to a suit that somebody's been building for the past however many years. Also, too, now I want boomerangs because I went to Australia.
Hey, I put in whips if we need to do boomerangs.
I mean, you already have boomerangs. You just need to roll up a gargoyle.
Yeah, but not that kind of boomerang. I want like a real boomerang. And plus, I don't want to. I will unlikely. I mean, I have a gargoyle character, but
Okay.
too much wing flapping.
um, as far as production bugs and fixes and stuff like that, um, I mean, I know Michael, you are always so hard at work, working on QA with bugs and everything else. I mean, like what is it looking like as far as like production and stuff like that when they come in and everything else? Because like I said, I know you work really hard at getting everything looked at and that. I mean, like what does it typically look like?
In terms of when a bug is reported.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
the most important aspect of a bug report is being able to reproduce it so that we can figure out what actually is happening.
mhm,
Um, quite often it's you'll get a report that's somebody will say this is happening, and there's just either not enough information provided, or they have not provided uh, what they were doing at the time. Because like I mentioned previously, there are issues because stuff is so interconnected in the code that somebody makes a change to an encounter, and now tailoring doesn't work or tinkering doesn't work or whatever. So having the actual steps to reproduce is the most important aspect of it, and then that way we can actually reproduce it. I can submit the bug on it, and the developer or engineer or artist can fix it.
okay. Awesome. Awesome.
And to jump on that too, just to follow up, if there are specific production bugs that people want us to look into, like Michael said, be very specific so we can jump into it. And if it's something that we can address within a publish, then we can try and do that. A lot of times what we find is that the bug reports that people submit aren't really bug reports, but more so we feel that this should work this way because that's the way we want it to work. And that's perfectly valid. Like, we appreciate the opinion, but it kind of goes beyond the scope of a bug report per se. Um, but if there's something that's legitimately broken, especially if it's something related to pets or housing or something related to like vendors or any of the kind of nuts and bolts and often used tool systems, gameplay mechanics, encounters, we will do our best to address that as soon as we can.
Okay.
Start submitting bug reports every time we are waiting on bosses on New Legacy. Oh gosh.
Yeah, there was some there were a couple people asking if the timers would get reevaluated on the bosses on New Legacy. So,
Reevaluated, potentially season 2, we might change some of the timers around, but our ultimate goal is to add more content, more bosses, more dungeons, so you're not so beholden to the timers, waiting around. And publish 2, we a lot of that went into this publish. Like, if you're waiting between boss timers, there's this new update to treasure maps with antiquities and heirlooms you can do in the meantime. We have a variety, a half a dozen world bosses that spawn on different timers. I know people tend to have the timers down to the minute once they see them spawn and wait for them. But between the world bosses, treasure hunting, taming pets, Blackthorn's dungeon, there's a lot to do. But we definitely plan to keep adding more stuff to the game, so you're not so much time spent sitting around waiting if all you like to do is the boss circuit. But and we also don't want it so it's like the bosses instantly spawn and then it's just this nonstop grind and you get burnt out from doing that. So there's a happy medium to the balance on the timers there. But we're not opposed to reevaluating in season 2, but ultimately more content, more variety is the end goal.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And while we're talking about like revamping things, had some questions about if there were any plans to revamp Vice versus Virtue. Um, anything at all that you guys might want to add or input on that?
When we were originally in the planning for um, New Legacy, we talked a lot about what PvP was going to look like because we were looking at also how we could update Vice and Virtue. Um, I don't think that there's necessarily a magic silver bullet solution that is going to allow us to snap our fingers and just completely turn the table on VVV. It's probably going to be, like I talked about earlier, a number of changes based on conversations with the community about what PvP changes are going to be meaningful. Like I said, we're happy to have that conversation. If somebody wants to start a thread on the forums, go for it. But as far as specific updates to VVV in the short term, nothing planned at the moment. But we're looking ahead to give you guys an idea of like how far out we plan things. Anything that we're talking about today that isn't specific to Publish 120 or New Legacy Publish 3, which would be the Shattering, or Publish 121, which brings is going to be our fall publish for all the various holidays and our holiday events that we do every year and stuff like that. We're looking at like the beginning part of 2026. So let's start those conversations now and see where they go. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on VVV and PvP. I know Stephen and I and Michael spent a lot of late nights in chilly Herndon, Virginia, dealing with VVV back when we were building it. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and not against or opposed to the idea of revisiting it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think really just getting more feedback from the players, like you were saying, about what actual changes they want to see. Um, yeah, submit your ideas now or adjustments, and we can have those conversations.
Definitely. And if you are not sure where to submit them to, you can check the communication crystal on the forum. It has the email address and everything, so you can submit it there. I'll be happy also if you submit it to me. I will pass it along as well. So if you're not sure where to submit it.
Fortunately for us, we have the trans ethereal antenna to provide us all of the information across all the different ethereal planes.
That's true. That's true. And it is a large antenna. It is quite a large antenna. Okay. Let's throw another one over to the artists. Um, ooh, I got a good one. Can you walk us through your process when you start on a new asset or character or anything?
That's very subjective, actually. So, as an example, one of the things someone asked about earlier, Clydesdale. All right, Clydesdale, we don't need to do much prep work. No sketches are really needed, no concept drawings or anything like that. But if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, we're going to do this event and we need something to hop out of a portal that players would want to run from, that'll either immediately get done based on time, or we'll run through a couple of concept drawings and show them to the team and basically pick the winner, and all within the mindset of staying within a certain schedule. Basically, like, okay, we have 5 days to come up with what this is going to look like, and at the end of the 5 days we have to go with the best one that we have because we got to stay on time. Works pretty much the same way with all the items. I know a lot of people like the new tabards. There were a couple of iterations that Steph did on that. Billy does a couple of iterations here and there on the items that she's working on, but that is the basic breakdown of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And wait. Can I talk about my kitchen items? Do they know about those yet?
They don't
Okay.
know about them, but they do
Oh my
now. So
God.
go ahead and talk about
Okay,
them. It's
kitchen
okay.
items. Okay. Well, another thing, like in addition to what Jim said, is so I mostly haven't really been doing character stuff, but I've been working a lot of like tile arts, like, or sometimes I work on like lore pages that will go in the lore book. And I find when it comes to those like environmental assets, one, I usually, like I said before, I like to see what's in the game already to just kind of get an idea. Sometimes the wiki is like very helpful for that. But then another thing to think about is sort of like doing a little bit of like historical research. So, for example, for the EMs recently, I created this frying pan thing. And it was kind of like, okay, well, what would a frying pan look like in UO that like makes sense? And it's like, okay, well, it can't be like, some fancy doodah, look at this like non-stick covering and, things like that. No, it's got to be cast iron. It's got to look old. And there's a little bit like anachronism, obviously, because it's like, okay, things can be like, antique or like ancient. But then sometimes you can have like a little bit of fun where it's like more of a like, oh, like technically I guess you wouldn't have this in medieval ages, but it looks fine. But so it's kind of about vibes sometimes. And I think that's fun. But I also got carried away and then made like a bunch of other kitchen things, like little wooden spoons and little jars and little cutting boards. They're all like nice wood finishes so people could decorate their kitchens later. I think it's meant to be a market item. That's what I was told. Yeah, coming to you soon or later. I don't know when.
It's a mystery.
I'm ready to throw my money at it already. I'm telling you, I'm gonna need like a bunch of those.
Mhm.
So
Yay! So exciting.
So
And,
cute.
and if the team will let me, I could just make little things like that forever because it's really fun.
and they're so adorable.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you. Let the players decorate their houses.
Hmm.
That's what the people want.
Heck yeah. Yes, a Cinderella kitchen item. Sweet idea. Um, all right. I know we've seen some questions coming in about 120, and that is coming to TC1 later this month and live around mid June. So I'll repeat that one more time. 120 will be coming to TC1 later this month and live mid June. So there we have that answer out there for you. Okay. Now, this kind of goes to everybody. So, this is an everyone question. If you could go back in time to the early days of UO and give advice to the devs, what would it be?
Stop. No. Turn back. Isn't that what Willy Wonka says in Stop, no, come
Don't
back.
stop.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I've got
Um,
one actually. Don't use numbers as naming conventions.
I had a
Oh.
feeling you would say that.
Mm,
That is
he's
the
not
biggest
wrong.
thing. Let us find longsword. Oh wait, no, that's number 17,305. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
that's funny.
And
Comment your
I
script.
know. Well,
Yeah,
Oh.
comment your script.
I mean, I know it was like back then, but I was like, maybe if they have a tagging system for the items or something, so we could like, look at them all. That'd be nice. Um, I've also wondered, maybe this is probably just me not knowing my programming history, but I'm like, I've never used Targos before. I thought that was interesting. I'll be like, could we use PNGs? Do we have those yet? I don't know. Maybe they're not around.
I don't think they were around, right, Steven?
Mhm.
What's that?
There weren't any PNGs back in the day.
No, not well.
It was all
Yeah,
bitmaps.
not when I first joined. But again,
Wow.
we transitioned,
Whoa.
so some of the things
And
are
it's too late now.
things.
The
We-
only reason some of
Targa.
our sections use PNGs is because of Steven.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, I'm just too scared because I'm like, surely if we try, it'll break and then it'll be terrible. I'll be like, oh no, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you. Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you.
What about you,
I would have
Steven?
told them upgrade Visual Studio sooner. Yeah, that would have been it.
Okay. All right. I can see that.
I think if you're gonna split the world into Trammel and Feluca, make Feluca the one everybody's going to as opposed to the existing world. I think they did it backwards back in the day
Mm.
because basically all it did was upend a ton of player communities that had established themselves on the original facet, and there was already an overwhelming desire by the player base to have a consensual PvP area. Like if you go back and listen to the postmortems that the old devs have done, like that was the number one thing that was driving people out of the game at the time. So the solution to a couple different problems for both lack of housing and to address the concerns about non-consensual PvP was to split the world. Okay, fine. But they left the existing server map as Feluca, and then the new one became Tram. And then what happened? Everybody went to Tram because it was safe. And all of the player communities that were established on what would become Feluca were deserted overnight, and that wasn't fun. So I wish they'd done it the other way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Let's see if we have any other kind of going through all the plethora of stuff that's being kind of posted everywhere. So lots and lots of people are joining in. And yes, we have answered some of the questions that are being asked. If we're kind of skipping over them, they have been asked before. So if you're kind of just joining us now, I would say, once the stream is over, you can rewatch everything. It is going to be uploaded up there, so you can rewatch everything. So your questions are not going overlooked. I would say that if it's not being answered, it probably already was. So definitely go back and watch, because it's been super fun so far. Another question that they have, and this is kind of to everybody. Are we looking at doing any more expansions or any boosters? Not a GM, Ronan. Not a GM.
As far as expansions and boosters go, it's something in the scope of, say, like Time of Legends, not in the immediate future. It takes away from our support of production. So, we are balancing what our goals are now between New Legacy and production by alternating the publishes. And I've seen a lot of discussion recently about, what is the point of New Legacy? Why are you guys doing this? You basically have done nothing for production over the past number of years while you're doing this, which I don't know, if you go to all the fan sites, tons of stuff that happened over the past 5 years, so maybe they missed that. But basically, the whole goal with New Legacy is to, as we mentioned at the onset of it, is to provide a more traditional RPG experience within UO, right? That was always one of the main goals, to provide a reset shard so that we could build experiences and build designs without having to be constrained by the elder game. Why would we want to do this? Because New Legacy offers us the ability to provide an onboarding experience for new players, so that they can then, as we hope, transition into the larger game, which is going to be way more robust in terms of the different skills and the different encounters and things like that. But think of New Legacy as almost like the gateway drug. The way people consume games and get into games these days is very much different than the way it was years ago. So New Legacy gives us the opportunity to do that. Now, that being said, we still very much love our production players, and we understand New Legacy isn't for everybody. And that's why we've got Publish 120 coming out. And then, of course, we'll have 121 coming after that, which will bring all the fan favorites, like all of our holiday content and things like that. But if we were to stop and do a booster or an expansion level amount of development, that would basically be the only thing that we'd be working on. And we don't want to neglect those communities right now. So the immediate term, that's what our focus is. So hopefully that answers that discussion that's been going on. And we're doing these to keep everybody updated so that they know what our plans are, because like we've talked about in the past, making sure that we support this incredible community and continue to make sure that the game thrives is the top of all of our lists.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty. So kind of some more team questions. What's one part of your work that you wish more players understood? And that's for each of you.
That's an easy one for the art side. A lot of the times that we get requests from players, we really want to do the things, but we don't have the ability because of the type of game it is. And what I mean by that is a lot of the times the players will make requests for a game that would have to be a 3D game to be able to implement what they are asking for. And we simply can't do that with the type of game this is.
Okay.
I will just say that a lot of times designing stuff, implementing stuff takes time. Sometimes more time than we would like, and we have to cut things or ideas get scrapped. We want to do all these cool things, especially me. I've got this whole list of stuff I want to do, but there's only so much time in the day. There's only one of me, unfortunately, and I can only do so much. But yeah, stuff takes time to develop and implement and test and QA and all that. So I would just ask that that's kept in mind with what we release.
Okay.
I would say that the UO community is very large and very dynamic and very diverse, and there's a lot of different ways that people like to play the game, and there's a lot of different things that people love about the game, and not any one person, I think, can single-handedly speak for any other. So when you give us feedback, just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of you and there's only a few of us, and we want to make you guys as happy as possible.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna piggyback on both of those. Nick and Greg said about time, and sometimes we're dealing with very old systems, and a lot of times there's some constraints for those systems, which we are working through, and so I think we just need some time to scope it all out and try to improve every single day and make it so that we can fulfill your requests here and make the game better. So
Well said, everyone. Well said. Um, have there been any moments where you looked at the game and thought, we did something really special here?
Smooth boat movement.
Yeah.
yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. I remember fishing back in the day, and it was just chug, 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 chug. And when we got smooth boat movement in, it was amazing.
Yeah, boat movement for the win. That's what 911 said. um, if you could give your past self one tip before starting working on UO, what would it be?
Well, I have that conversation every time I dive into something I wrote 10 years ago in script and was like, what jerk wrote this? Oh, I did, right?
I'll parrot what I said about going back to the original designers. I go back to myself 3 years ago and comment your code. So I'm guilty of
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Anything
Okay,
you'd
I
offer?
would tell my
Oh,
oh
go ahead.
okay, I would tell my past self, I would be like, okay, Billy, when you go into that meeting and you meet everyone for the first time, put on your cat ears because Fenneko will be very impressed.
Make a Gump editor.
Yeah, exactly. Make a competitor. For those of you who are wondering why we're all chuckling, those are not happy laughs. Those are laughs of insane tears, because every single menu and if anybody in chat knows what GUMP stands for, they'll get a big thumbs up. But basically, all the interface work that you see in the game has to be painstakingly constructed with a lot of trial and error. So we've gotten some some better tools over the years, but it's definitely not as seamless as the way modern UI stuff is done.
Okay. Is there any wise words that you could give to our players today?
Keep looking for the Easter eggs because you haven't found them all yet.
Yeah, there's quite a few on New Legacy still. Go find them.
There you go. Cat ears for the win. Yeah. um yeah, we've gotten some wonderful comments about New Legacy. So, lots of positive comments. Thank you all for those positive comments. Positivity is great. I would also say that if you have something to, if you have a suggestion or stuff like that, I use the words constructive criticism, and that means that when you have a suggestion or something, make sure that you actually go in depth about it too, not just this sucks. That doesn't really help anybody. So I would say, please, reiterate, add to that, don't, two words don't really help all that much.
Much like was said earlier, if we get a bug that just says ogres, it's difficult to fix that.
What did it actually say? Wasn't it like Agres or something?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ogres.
Okay. Is there anything any of you would like to add to the players? Not so much words of wisdom, but just anything you guys would like to say to the players.
Thank you. Thank you all for being such an amazing community, for supporting us over coming up on 28 years. Nobody in this business can say that. And have the legacy that we've had and been fortunate enough to be a part of. I mean, at this point, Michael and Steven, what is this, your 15th year coming up on? How many years have you been on the project?
Oh my goodness. I gotta do the math. Hold on.
This is 17.
17 years.
17 years. Oh my goodness.
Wow, that's
That's amazing.
impressive.
I mean, our players are so amazing that at this point we have made memorials for quite a few of them.
Yeah,
Very true.
that's it's a sad but also a you asked earlier about one of the most special things that we can do. The fact that we've got multi-generational families playing this game, and that we're able to remember the friends that we've lost and had so many good adventures with, even virtually, is really special. I'm not sure, I don't know that any other games do that. I certainly have never seen it. But being able to provide that is great for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say our player base is, and I've said this multiple times, we have the best community and player base out there, hands down. Everybody is always so nice, so supportive, just so wonderful. And we honestly love you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are what helps make UO the great game that it is today. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. And I think that goes for all of us. We thank you for being such wonderful, players and supportive players. We love you guys so much. So thank you. And thank you for the follow. So yeah, this is I can honestly say Ronan. I can honestly say, I mean, when did everybody start playing UO?
January of 1999.
Heck yeah.
1997.
You go.
Whenever it still needed floppy disks.
I was a latecomer in Evo World. I didn't start playing till 2007.
Noob.
Yep.
2008.
See, I mean, we have been just, yeah, see, lots of players coming in and chiming in. You know, they've been with us for such a long time, and yeah, we all have a deep love and appreciation for this game. So, absolutely. And whether you're a new player, old player, we absolutely love you and we thank you for being with us for so long. I mean, this is an amazing game. We love this game so much. And again, we appreciate you guys. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people saying, Nick, they love your voice. They absolutely love your voice, Nick.
I don't know how to respond to that, but thank you.
Say it again, but slower.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, I think we know who's going to be doing the voiceover work for all of our future videos.
Yeah, Nick, learn Japanese.
There we go. Yeah.
That way we can have a male voice too.
Yes, and to all of our Japanese players, yeah, どうもありがとうございます。皆さん、本当にどうもありがとうございます。Thank you so much. You guys have been truly amazing, and we've appreciated each and every one of you. People are saying you should, Nick. You should. You should do voiceovers. Yeah, a lot of people really like your voice. Lots of positive comments. So you should feel flattered. That's awesome.
Part flattered, part creeped out. You know, it's a healthy mix. You know.
Yeah, and this has been so much fun. This has been just a blast, and it's nice to be able to communicate with each and every one of you like this. I think this is awesome, and I think would you say that these would be something to look forward to in the future?
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck yeah! See, so more to come, lots more, and yeah, this was a lot of fun. Um, I think now you guys are just doing it just to purposely just kind of make him a little squeamish about things now. I'm watching the comments
I-
come through.
Be
I
careful.
don't know. I read the New Lord British, and all I could think is, and now they want to set him on fire.
No. That's what I'm saying. Y'all are gonna scare him away.
We should start a fan club now. Just a fan club just for Nick right there.
Oh gosh, now there's going to be like a Parallax Guild appreciation. I forget who said it at one point. It might have been, oh gosh, I don't remember. But one of the devs I remember was like talking in one of the events that we had in Virginia, and it was basically like they were running around the world and they found somebody who had his pumpkin on their front stoop from all like the named pumpkins, and he was like so happy that somebody appreciated him enough to put their pumpkin on his stoop. Put his pumpkin on their stoop.
Aw. Oh, Ronan says he's sorry if he inflated your ego. Yeah. Braden's, yeah, we just said that we'll be doing another one of these in the future. So there you go. Definitely going to be doing this again.
There is a question that came up in game that I'd like to address really quick.
Sure.
It was regards to Harbottle asked about the Riftborn monstrosity, a new legacy since the hotfix, mentioning it's kind of nuts.
Oh,
I'll just say that every boss on New Legacy has a method to the madness. I would say look at the resist of it, look at the ads, and maybe you shouldn't focus on the mob with 97 resist. Maybe your focus should be elsewhere, and it might be a little easier for you. I'll just put that teaser out there. But yeah, every encounter on New Legacy, there's some method to the madness. So if it feels more difficult than it is, might not be the best strategy.
So you're saying that I can't Leroy Jenkins in?
You can, but you might see a gray screen.
Braden's. Oh, you mean like in person? They want to know if there's ever going to be an in-person one again.
Oh, I mean, 30 years is right around the corner, so who knows what we can put together for that, but it's definitely on the radar.
Oh, there we go.
We kind of put all that kind of stuff on hold because of COVID when that was a thing, but fortunately those days are behind us, so we'll see.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today. I think we've gotten a lot of really great questions, and I think we've answered a good chunk of questions that were asked to us today. And we definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in and showing up. This was a lot of fun and gave everybody a good chance to meet everybody. I know everybody's been very excited to meet some of the new artists. So now there you go. You can put some voices to the stuff that's going out there. So yeah, that's a lot of fun, and we love our team so much. So yeah, all right, guys. Devs, thank you guys for being here tonight. I think we forget that this is evening for us. I just streamed New Legacy in Japan, so I'm in the morning routine now. So, um, but yeah, thank you all for being here tonight. This was really special.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you, Serena, for doing an excellent job streaming this and moderating it for us. I don't want to speak for everybody, but this was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing this more often with everyone.
Heck
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
y'all.
thank you, everyone.
Okay. So let's conclude this out as we normally do. So now this brings us to the end of the Roadmap Roundtable. So once again, a huge thanks to the entire UO Dev team for sharing their time, their stories, everything. And to our listeners, thank you. Thank you for continuing to journey with us through Britannia. So as always, I'm going to give you my outro before we finish up for the evening, and then I will be here again tomorrow streaming. So don't worry about that. But we're gonna say our outro, and if you know it, please say it with me. I am your host, Fenneko, and I hope you have a great day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Stay safe out there, and as always, be good to each other. We'll see you again real soon. Bye. Say bye.
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 Bye,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye, everybody. Bye.